The Greater Manchester Mayor has formally applied to stand as a Labour MP. That has reignited speculation about his future in the Labour Party and putting fresh pressure on Sir Keir Starmer. Wow. So we'll be discussing all of what's going on. Also coming up, we'll be doing difficult conversations, but it's huge news as we now, if you've just tuned in, if you've just joined us, it's 7 minutes after 5 o'clock. The deadline, moments before the deadline, Andy Burnham has made his move. He has formally applied to stand as the Labour MP, reigniting speculation about his future role in the party, putting fresh pressure on Labour leadership. Wow. So that is seriously happening. A lot of people will be talking about that. Joining me in my panel, Fahima Mohammed and also Lizzie Cundy. So very briefly, Lizzie Cundy, I know that you said if Andy Burnham led the Labour Party, you would even contemplated voting for them.
Well, I wouldn't go that far.
You did say that, though.
But I do like Andy Burnham. And, oh, my, egg on your face, Keir Starmer. I think he'll be asking for some of Rachel Reeves' tissues at the minute. He will be very, very nervous. But let me tell you, this is going to be so exciting. What an exciting by-election we're going to have. I mean, look, we've got from the Green Party, who's going to be standing? Is it going to be Polanski? Will he throw his hat in the ring? Who's going to come up from Reform? Could it really be really close? This is so exciting. This is why I love politics. And my word, what a day. And we heard it here first, Nana, on your show. I'm so delighted and so excited.
You're excited, but wouldn't that be also something that Reform needs to be worried about, if anything? Because, it might actually, bring those kind of voters and bring the stability that Labour really requires. I mean, obviously, we do know that leadership change can actually, revitalise the party, and him putting himself forward could also mean that at the end of the day, there could be those fresh new policies that people will go back to Labour and then they see more of Conservatives in Reform. So, in a way, that's probably been more detrimental to Reform, if anything.
No, Reform aren't scared. Reform aren't scared one bit. I'm afraid I think you're scared. They are not. Because what is good for this country is good opposition. And we haven't had that. Keir Starmer is weak as straw. He'd be looking like a scared rabbit at the minute. But, the knives are out for him. And the Labour Party haven't learned anything from the, Tory party, that in-house fighting doesn't win elections. And it's going to be so interesting. This by-election is going to be riveting. And you know what? Who's going to win? Who is going to win this? And will the Green Party throw their own leader into this?
I think they will. I think they will. And I think now it's going to be real competition, like you said, but I really do feel that it's going to make a difference to Reform.
All right, well, so Andy Burnham has posted on X. He says, I have today written to the chair of Labour's National Executive Committee seeking permission to enter the selection process for candidate for the forthcoming Gorton and Denton by-election. And then there's an error to read my letter here. He said, I write to seek permission for the... I'm sorry, my glasses, I need to put them on. For the NEC to enter the process for selection of Labour's candidate for the forthcoming Gorton and Denton by-election. This has been a difficult decision for me to make, and I thought that it would help members of the NEC if I shared my reasoning in reaching it. He goes on to say, of course, nobody wanted or expected a by-election at the time, and I have given careful thought to what is in the best interests of our party and the city region I represent. With that in mind, I have come to the conclusion that this is the moment to mount the strongest possible defence of what we stand for and what we have built in this city over many generations. Wow. Wow.
You know what? He's a brave man, because this is a gamble for him. It really is. He's, if he loses, this could be the end of his political career. He's going for it. And you know what? He's popular and he's got guts.
I think you're the only one that's really making him popular right now. And you're standing and sitting on your seat and jumping.
He left us waiting, didn't he? Tick-tock. It was nearly 5 o'clock. I was like, come on, Andy, where are you?
Well, I'm afraid...
What's happening?
Well, that's him with his wife.
Yeah, well,
I'm sorry about that.
He's defecting.
No, but this makes politics exciting. And as I say, we need good opposition. It's no point. We've got Keir Starmer who's so weak. 15
leadership doesn't matter. Leadership doesn't matter
U-turn.
Unless it matches with real policy change. And it has to, address the real issues of housing, economics and everything else that is in between. So just a leadership change, for me, I'm sorry, is not enough.
Now, I just want to read this part of Andy Burnham's letter because he talks about Manchester. And he said, Manchester inspires because it is a place that has always stood for the equality of all people, right back to the cotton workers in 1862 who refused to handle slave-picked cotton. In my time as mayor, I have drawn strength from that tradition and worked hard to unite people. We are famous for our togetherness, and from that foundation, we are achieving huge success as the UK's fastest-growing city region. Wow. So that's interesting, isn't it? Because Keir Starmer, hearing this, given what has gone on with Keir Starmer, he's about to U-turn for the 15th time on Chagos. We're expecting another U-turn on the pubs, which I'm surprised they haven't gone on with that. And, of course, you do need to turn away when you've put in bad policy. But to put so many elements of bad policy in such a short space of time is I would say, a dereliction of duty.
I mean, Keir Starmer has run out of track for his U-turns, and the worry is, Nana, his own cabinet, his party, the British people have lost every confidence in him because of his U-turning. I mean, what's the point of him saying any policy when you know he's going to...
Well, having said that, we want him to because it's rubbish policy for him.
Well, yeah, exactly. I think, you know, U-turn can be seen in one way, as in, like, not having a policy, but at the same time, that means he's actually listened to his, you know, to the people who are actually unhappy about it. So you can see it in that way, and I can see it in another. But I do feel that, you know, strong leadership is not going to be something that we have to take lightly just by someone else coming in and just replacement because of characteristics and popularism. We need to have proper manifestos and policies that's going to resonate with everyday people. So until I see that, I don't see a different person coming in and making a difference.
Well, it'll be the same manifesto that they've ignored and a lot of the policy that wasn't in it that suddenly arrives. But joining me now is former Labour advisor Danny Shaw. Danny Shaw, how big of an upset is this? How serious is this? Where do we go from here? Danny?
Well, it's clearly a very important moment. Andy Burnham essentially declaring that he wants to get back into frontline politics at Westminster, and he sees this as the route to do it. It is a gamble on his behalf, firstly because there's no guarantee that he'll be selected to fight the seat. And secondly, if he is selected to fight the seat, he's got a 13,000 majority at the last election, which will have been whittled down, I am sure, in terms of popularity because of the surge of support for Reform UK. So, you know, in normal times, it would be considered a pretty safe Labour seat. You can't say that now. So he'll have a fight on his hands if he is selected. But the first step is absolutely for the NEC, or for 10 members of the NEC, including Keir Starmer, Shabana Mahmood, Ellie Reeves, to decide whether or not to allow Andy Burnham's name to go forward as a candidate.
How likely do you think they are to allow that?
Well, I think they're going to come under tremendous pressure not to block his nomination as a candidate. And myself, I think that would be a huge mistake if they did block it. There are some grounds on which they could do it. They might decide, for example, that there should be an all-women shortlist. They could also decide that if he were to go forward and win the seat, there'd have to be a contest for mayor of Greater Manchester, which would cost in the region of £4 to £5 million. And that itself would be, you know, quite a distraction. So there are grounds for them deciding to block his nomination as candidate. But I think that would be a big mistake because it would be seen as Keir Starmer trying to block someone potentially running against him as leader and Prime Minister at a future date. And I think that would be a big mistake. I think, you know, the much better approach would be to say, look, here we have someone who is, you know, an experienced politician, a popular politician in Greater Manchester, who's done a good job as Mayor of Greater Manchester, seeking to put himself forward to be a candidate at this challenging by-election. We should support his candidacy.
And I'm wondering, as you talked earlier about how things have changed in that constituency, because, of course, there's the surge of Reform UK. But I'm wondering, what kind of an impact do you think Andy Burnham will have on that? Because there are elements of what Reform have, the very working class, we're really going to, working person. There's a real angle there, which was the common ground of the Labour Party, which the Conservatives completely lost. So, in a sense, do you think that it is likely that Andy Burnham is almost, in a sense, he's kind of going up against a very similar mindset, isn't he?
I don't quite see it like that, Nana, to be honest. I think he will present a really good campaign, I'm sure. He's an incredibly experienced politician and a seasoned campaigner. And to have someone of his stature standing in that by-election, I think would help Labour, and I think that they would probably get over the line. If it was a lesser candidate, I'm not sure that they would. The flip side is that there are people who might think, oh, he's only doing this because he wants to be leader and prime minister. And there may be people who are put off by that. But I think his record in Greater Manchester and his commitment to that area, I think, will help him. Clearly the main challenge, I think, will be from Reform and also the Greens, who came third, I believe, at the general election. And they could, put forward a really serious candidate as well. So there's a lot to play for. It will be absolutely fascinating. But, this is clearly him deciding that if he wants to have a tilt at the leadership, this is his best route to do so.
And what about, as you mentioned, the Greens, there were murmurs that Zack Polanski might go for that seat, which I don't know how much he knows about the area, but he's very, very popular.
Yeah, I mean, it's the kind of thing that, he might decide to do. Even if he doesn't win the seat, it will raise his profile. It will allow the Greens and him in particular to have a stronger platform. So that could be something they decide. It may well be that there are local Green campaigners in the Manchester area who are better suited, better placed to enter that contest. I mean, that's a decision for them further down the line. But at the moment, this is really, I think, shaping up to be, about Andy Burnham and his future. I mean, one thing I would say about Andy Burnham is that he has stood to be leader of the Labour Party on two occasions, in 2010 and 2015. On neither occasion did he come close to winning those contests, and you might have expected him to do better in both of those leadership elections. I think it was a very unimpressive contest, particularly that he ran in 2015. And again, when you look at what happened at the last Labour conference, when he, sort of seemed to enter the race or, put himself forward and then had to retreat, it was all rather embarrassing. So I think there are still question marks over his judgment. But he is clearly harbouring ambitions, I would say, for the leadership. And, it's, I suppose, for Keir Starmer, it's sort of game on.
Well, he'll have to take about a 20 grand pay cut if he does go for that job, because if he does become an MP, I think you get paid a bit more being a regional mayor. We'll just look that one up. Well, look, it's really good to talk to you, Danny Shaw. Thank you so much for your insight into that. Really fascinating political times, I must say. Thank you so much. That's Danny Shaw. He's the former Labour advisor. Right.